As the day progressed, news of the appearance of the dragon shifters was buzzing everywhere, just like Nivea knew it would. Nivea was certain not just the Eclipse Palace, but the news had spread all around the Eclipse domain in merely a single night. And the center of importance of this buzzing news was the mysterious alpha wolf who had appeared in the Eclipse Palace and battled the Black Dragon. Who do you think it could be? It would not be one of the Eclipse Alphas, right? If it was, the Eclipse warriors would recognize the wolf immediately. Layla continued for the 100th time, her eyes wide with curiosity. They say it is an alpha wolf they have never seen before, and carrying a strange scent, Layla exclaimed, completely enthralled by the news. Nivea heaved a sigh as she watched her newly assigned attendants prance all about her room, going on and on about the events that had happened last night. It had only been a little over 30 minutes Nivea's new attendant had arrived, after rudely awakening Nivea with loud and persistent knocking on her door. Nivea was already completely fed up, and even began considering how much quieter it would have been if it was her governess who had come instead. At least her governess would be more concerned with talking down Nivea, which was something Nivea was used to, unlike this extremely chatty and chirpy attendant, whom Nivea was not sure how to react to. Nivea wondered when the attendant would tire of the gossip she had been buzzing about for over a half hour. Nivea herself was already tired of it, and wished her peace and quiet could return so she could go back to bed. I wonder what King Lothair will do about it. Perhaps he might declare a hunt for the trespasser. With all the Eclipse Alphas gathered here, it should not take too long before he is apprehended, Layla reasoned aloud. Hunted over what? Nivea snapped in annoyance, not liking the suggestions coming out of her attendant's mouth, a suggestion she dearly hoped would not cross her father's mind. A hunt would mean the very best trackers would be gathered, in which case, just how was Nivea to escape unscathed? Nivea may have been able to mislead the Eclipse warriors that once, but if they continued investigating, she would definitely be caught. Other than the two dragons, Nivea was, in fact, the only strange person who was in the forest when she was not supposed to be. In reality, it was actually quite easy to figure out Nivea had been the strange alpha wolf. It was only that everyone believed Nivea to be an Omega, and thus underestimated her. This was precisely why Nivea was pretty certain they would never trace things back to her. But if a hunt was called, gathering all the best trackers and hunters across the Eclipse domain, then Nivea knew it was completely over for her. The prejudice the Eclipse Fang warriors had against her was not shared by the other Eclipse packs. If trackers from the other Eclipse packs looked into it, they would not brush off Nivea's presence in the forest casually like the Eclipse Fang warriors would. All along, Nivea knew the only reason she had been able to protect her secret was not because she was overly smart and cautious. It was simply because she was not taken seriously by the Eclipse Fang. They all saw her as the runt of the pack, the wannabe princess, a shame and a stain on their Alpha King's otherwise spotless image. She was someone every wolf of Eclipse Fang detested, even more so because they still had to bow to her and accord her the respect of a princess due to the constant presence of foreign wolves from the other Eclipse packs. They thought Nivea to be weak and useless, save for her facial looks and figure. Everything else about her was pathetic. And all this while, the shadow of their prejudice had blinded their eyes from seeing the truth, even when Nivea slipped up. Like when Alpha Queen Vilma had thrown a knife at her, and the injury had mended the very moment she had removed the blade from her shoulder. This had clearly been evidence of Nivea's accelerated regenerative abilities. But, of course, it suited their prejudice more to decide Nivea had the gift of healing. As pathetic as it was, Nivea knew this was the only reason she could keep her identity and her life safe for so long. and Nivea planned for it to remain that way till she was ready to leave the Eclipse Fang pack herself. Huh? Layla asked, not understanding Nivea's sudden outburst. Realizing she had overreacted, Nivea and spoke in a much calmer voice. I mean, from all you have told me, this alpha wolf only battled the black dragon and saved one of our pups. Should he still be hunted? What is his crime? Nivea adjusted carefully. What is his crime? Oh, princess, you must not know it since you were born wolfless, but we are extremely territorial beings, and trespassing is considered a grave crime. And trespassing of another alpha wolf is an act of disdain to the alpha overseeing that territory. The dragon shifters have done it, and King Lothair is unable to stand against them. His authority was undermined repeatedly in one night. He will never let that alpha wolf go. Layla glancing around, as though to ensure no one could hear her gossiping about the Alpha King. Nivea quirked a brow, although it was not her first time being mocked for her lack of knowledge as an Omega. However, when others said it, they said it with contempt and detestation. They said it with the intent to hurt Nivea, believing she was still susceptible to harsh words and insults. However, for some reason, Layla's wording sounded different. It sounded indifferent and straightforward, as though she was just pointing out the truth without much thought attached to it. Nivea at Layla's words, wondering why she had found herself in such a situation. Nivea knew her father well enough. He was a very proud man, and to have himself in a situation where he had to bow his head to the dragon shifters, even when they trespassed his territory, could only mean his wrath had been triggered. And the victim of his wrath would have to be the only other person who had undermined his authority, and the one he did not need to bow to. A certain unlucky alpha wolf. The moment Layla took her leave, Nivea breathed a deep sigh of relief. She had not realized how valued her peace and quiet was, till she had had her morning completely disrupted by the talkative she-wolf. However, Nivea comforted herself in the fact that though Layla was most likely also sent by the Alpha Queen Vilma to spy on her, the talkative she-wolf was still quite useful. Not only had she kept Nivea updated on the present status on the search for the mystery Alpha Wolf, she had also tidied up Nivea's room and prepared Nivea's bathwater. Now she had gone off to fetch Nivea's breakfast from the kitchen, and Nivea swore she found the attentive care of her new attendant unsettling. Well, enjoy it while it lasts, Nivea told herself as she got off her bed with a quiet, groan of pain and headed into her washroom. Nivea pushed the door shut and locked it before she headed over to her mirror. Standing before it, she stared at her expression, noticing she looked rather pale, and Nivea guessed it was due to blood loss. Nivea sighed. Her injury had stopped bleeding sometime within the night, and she had had to change her blood-stained sheets and bandages before going back to bed. Nivea then pulled off her nightrobes and unwrapped the bandages, examining the wound through the mirror. Every other lighter injury had already healed, and even this showed signs of closing up, and Nivea guessed it would be completely healed by the next day. The spikes on the black dragon's tail had pierced in too deep, and Nivea was even impressed to see she was healing so well without receiving proper medical attention. Nivea was grateful she had considerable medical knowledge. The wound would not get infected and would heal just fine. Nivea sighed quietly. Stepping into her bath pool, she slowly washed herself, careful to avoid her wounds as she basked in the warmth provided by the water. Just as Nivea was contemplating relaxing for a short while, there was a knock on her door, and Nivea released a quiet, groan. Nivea got out of her bath pool and dried herself before pulling on a robe and heading to her door, unlocking it and pulling it open. While Nivea had expected to see Layla, who she guessed had returned with her breakfast, Nivea's heart dropped when she came face to face with Alpha King Lothair. "Father," Nivea stuttered out, as bone-chilling terror gripped her, her mind reeling with various thoughts. What was he doing here? Why had he come? Did he know something? Was this how it would end for her? Many thoughts flashed across Nivea's mind in a split second as she stood frozen in place. "Move," Alpha King Lothair demanded in a low tone that jolted Nivea back to reality as she hurriedly moved aside to let her father in. "Morning greetings, father," Nivea quickly greeted with a low bow. I was beginning to wonder if you needed another lesson on proper etiquette," Alpha King Lothair said in that low, terrifying tone.
Wait, that's not the end. You've just had a free taste. Now get the full story on the Pocket FM app, link in description. Check out our next video and playlist, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.